You probably think of yourself as a modern person, scrolling, sipping coffee, living in comfort. But here's the uncomfortable truth. Your body, your instincts, your fears, they were forged in a world of fire and ice. And no matter how many coats you own or how high you turn up the thermostat, you are still carrying the scars of a battle that began long before history, because survival wasn't guaranteed. Imagine standing in a frozen world, the wind slicing at your skin, the horizon endless white, food scarce, predators hungry. No safety nets, just a small band of humans, fire flickering at the center, ice pressing in from every side. And here's the mystery. They didn't just endure, they adapted. And in that adaptation, they became us. But before we get there, let me ask you, how do you deal with struggle? Do you retreat, waiting for it to pass? Or do you adapt, turning the cold into a teacher? Because that's what our ancestors did. And it's the only reason you're here. The story begins around 2.6 million years ago, when Earth's climate swung like a pendulum. The Pleistocene epoch, an age of ice advancing, retreating, reshaping continents. Imagine glaciers taller than skyscrapers, grinding across Europe, North America, and Asia. Entire ecosystems wiped clean, then reborn. 1 century, fertile grassland. The next, a frozen desert. Now picture early humans caught in this rhythm. They didn't have heated homes or insulated jackets. They had fire, fragile, flickering, hard-won, and they had each other. But fire wasn't just warmth, it was defiance. To keep Palm alive meant fighting against a universe that seemed determined to snuff you out. Think about this. Every night during the Ice Ages, families huddled around flames, not knowing if they'd wake to a blizzard or a thaw. Every log fed to the fire was a decision. Burn it now or save it for tomorrow. Comfort now or survival later. And this wasn't just practical, it was psychological. Fire gave light in endless nights, pushed back predators, created a circle where community could form. The fire was survival, but it was also story. Around the flames, myths were born, identities shaped, and futures imagined. Now contrast that with ice. Ice was silence. Ice was hunger. Ice was time itself, stretching endlessly. You couldn't reason with it, couldn't fight it. The only option was to endure. Here's the uncomfortable twist. It wasn't the warm, easy times that shaped us most. It was the cold, brutal ones. When food was scarce, our ancestors invented strategies: storing, sharing, planning. When landscapes shifted, they learned to move, to migrate, to adapt. Archaeologists find traces of this in sites like Blombos Cave in South Africa, where early Homo sapiens carved ochre and crafted tools that weren't just functional, but symbolic. What does that mean? That even in desperate times, when survival was razor thin, the human mind was reaching beyond necessity into meaning. Because when the world tried to freeze them into silence, they answered with imagination. Now let's pause. Imagine your own life. When things get hard, when the cold sets in, not literal cold, but loneliness, loss, failure, do you see only suffering? Or do you see the spark of something else? Our ancestors couldn't escape the ice. They couldn't fast forward through winters that lasted centuries. What they could do was adapt. And in doing so, they built resilience we still carry today. Persistence wasn't just about hunting gazelles. It was about outlasting climates. Ice ages turned us into travelers, storytellers, builders of memory. And fire was the tool that gave those memories a home. Take the Gravettian people of Ice Age Europe, for example. They lived 30,000 years ago, in a world where mammoths roamed and temperatures plummeted. What did they do? They invented tailored clothing, crafted from furs and hides. They built shelters from bones and tusks, turning death into protection. And they painted caves with visions of animals, of hunts, of mysteries. Ask yourself, if you were shivering in a frozen cave, would you think to draw a bison on the wall? Would you waste precious time on art when food was scarce? But maybe it wasn't wasted at all. Maybe it was survival in another form, because hope needs symbols as much as bodies need calories. And here's the paradox. The ice was merciless, but it gave us something priceless: community. Alone, one person would freeze, but together, sharing warmth, food, and stories, groups survived. Ice forced humans to cooperate at a scale no other animal did. Fire gave them the place to do it. So fire versus ice wasn't just nature's battle. It was humanity's forge. Let's pull this forward. Why do you think modern humans crave warmth so deeply? Why a crackling fireplace feels safe? Why snowstorms trigger both awe and unease? It's not nostalgia, it's memory, carried in your DNA, in instincts older than civilization. But here's the danger. In our world of central heating and air conditioning, of endless supermarkets and glowing screens, we've forgotten the cold. We've forgotten hunger. We've forgotten what it means to endure. And when you forget the ice, you lose touch with the resilience it gave you. So let me ask, are you too comfortable? Have you built a life so padded with warmth that you've lost the fire inside? Our ancestors didn't survive because life was easy. They survived because life was hard, and they rose to meet it. The battle of fire versus ice isn't over. It lives in you every time you choose between comfort and growth, safety and risk, ease and endurance. The warmth of fire is seductive, but the cold of ice, the trials, the struggles, that's what forges you. So the next time you feel the chill of challenge, don't run. Remember, your ancestors faced glaciers. They faced winters that lasted lifetimes. And they lit flames anyway. Because survival was never about avoiding the cold. It was about learning to carry the fire within you. And maybe that's the lesson we need most now. In an age of comfort, rediscovering discomfort might be the only way to remember who we are. This was the forgotten battle. Fire versus ice. But the story doesn't end here. If fire was the first technology, what happened when we learned to turn stone into weapons? Not just for survival, but for power. That's coming in the next film. So if you felt something stir while hearing this, if you want to keep uncovering the truths buried in our past that still shape your life today, then join me. Subscribe to Ancestor Flame, because the fire isn't gone. It's waiting for you to remember it.